our little break here, we're going to turn the gun turrets over to the left to where Mr. Russell Moore is sitting, and we've got a couple of key questions to ask on behalf of Mr. Mattiello. So stay tuned.
All right.
Check out coalitionradio.us on Facebook, facebook.com/The Coalition Radio, and on Twitter @coalition_radio. We will be right back after the break. Manchester 65 is New England's newest live music and events venue. If you're not completely enjoying your current live music experience, there is another option. Manchester 65 is large enough to support touring acts, yet small enough for that local feel. For upcoming events, go to manchester65.com. Make it your place. Manchester65.com.
Liberty-loving freedom fighters, join us for Liberty Love Fest 4, an evening of live music, arts, education, and trade. Potluck social with liberty-minded people from New England and beyond. April 5th at St. Joseph's Church Hall in Cumberland, Rhode Island. Details on the web at libertylovefest.org. That's libertylovefest.org.
ProvidenceNightOut.com is a one-stop destination website where you'll discover a comprehensive guide of everything that the Providence area has to offer. Nightlife, entertainment, dining and dancing, community and family events, and so much more. Download the free app called My Night Out. It's ProvidenceNightOut.com.
Hey everybody, it's Tony Jones. You know, when I'm not here yakking about politics, I spin records. That's right, if you like good old-fashioned rock and roll radio the way God intended it to be, then tune in to The Tony Jones Show. The information's online at tonyjones.org. That's tonyjones.org. Tony Jones here. You are tuned in to the Coalition online at coalitionradio.us, on Twitter at coalition_radio, Facebook, facebook.com/The Coalition Radio. And if you go to the Facebook page at facebook.com/The Coalition Radio, I posted my first selfie today, and that is with my share, or my shares from the Capital Good Fund IPO to end poverty. Mr. Posner was in studio with us. Make sure you check that out, because those guys are doing some fantastic, and that's coming from just my cynical, miserable, evil heart. And I think they're doing fantastic things. So what does that tell you?
I love the self-awareness.
Well, on that note, and by the way,
Grinch's heart began to grow.
And by the way, if you missed it, please, a must-read today in today's Providence Journal is that there appears to be a...
Wait, that's the Providence Journal still a thing?
And they have must-reads?
Absolutely. About the gang that steals vegetable oil across the state. That's an absolute must-read. We're talking about
It was on the front page.
I actually reported on that a couple of years back. It's actually a huge industry, and one of the funniest things about it is because it's vegetable oil, okay, there's no hazardous materials licensing, there's no special trucks you have to drive. If you have a truck with a tank and a pump that can get it, you could just drive around.
I think we're branching out.
Violator grease out of
finally,
restaurants, waste oil.
Talk about right out of The Godfather. My God, Genco, here we come.
Right.
Well, again, to repeat, today we've got the steel cage death match. On one hand, we've got Russ Moore, again, man about town.
GoLocalProv.com.
GoLocalProv.com. Moderate to slightly conservative thinker.
Sounds fair to me.
Okay. On the other side, we have Dave Fisher, community activist, former candidate for mayor.
And former reporter, too, which I didn't know.
Former environmentalist and reporter.
We've got two reporters
We've
here.
got Renaissance kind of guys here.
Wait, now, according to Senator Josh Miller, if you do not represent the Providence Journal, you are not a reporter. So, sorry, dudes.
Oh, okay.
All right. Guess
So
we're not
is
reporters.
that a GFY moment?
It certainly sounds that way.
Does that mean we are
We can't
entertainers?
drop that on the air. So.
In the last half hour, we formally buried the Tea Party. to repeat in case you missed it, we formally buried the freaking Tea Party.
And that's coming from the whitest, most middle-class guy I know. What does that tell you?
All right. By the way, just, it's interesting, going out into the Facebook sphere, if there is such a thing, a year or so ago was replete with tales of this Tea Party getting together, that Tea Party getting together. One Tea Party I checked, I think it was at Cranston. The last Facebook post was somewhere in 2012. So it just seems to be that...
seems like they're energized.
Yeah, ready to fight the battle.
I'm curious as to why a state this small needs a separate Tea Party get-together in Cranston versus Providence.
Because where are all the governmental employees who want to run for state senate on a pro-Republican small government viewpoint going to go hang out?
Oh, good point.
No, okay, sorry.
And Rhode Islanders hate to drive.
Why are they sending like 3 tweets in a row out? Anybody on Twitter knows that's a bad Twitter faux pas.
True, but they do retweet a lot of my stuff, so I'm not going to hate too much. They're getting me a little bit more exposure here.
They only favorite my stuff. They don't retweet.
Oh, see, I got the real love.
All right. So we were talking about the incredible upheaval that took place in our government this past week, and I want to turn the tables a little bit because we put Dave under the harsh light of day, talking about the near death wish obsession with social politics, and the reengineering that the Greens and the Progressives had, much to their political demise. Now I got to ask a hard question for us. Now
I don't like this as much.
Okay, so Mr. Mattiello, in his
Speaker Mattiello to you.
Oye, oye.
Yes, that's right.
Mr. Speaker, Grand Poobah, Chief Water Buffalo, High Exalted Ruler, Rule of all P pervades, King Lear. What? One of the first words out of his mouth when interviewed by one of the PRO folks was, in terms of what are your priorities? And in his best clipped Blackstone Valley kind of accent, he said something effective. I think if I translate, I needed subtitles.
Calamari.
Jobs and the economy. All right. So in this past legislative session, sponsored by the execrable Mr. Jan Malik, there was a commission sponsored to study the sales tax and the tax situation. Now, flashback to that, Mr. Malik, much to his own personal credit, had and somehow engineered a reverse tax, if you will, on beer. Because Mr. Malik, with all the concerns he had, it's just purely by chance, he happens to run a beer store right on the back. So, in truly a profile of courage, he decided that, we need to have a commission, mainly to act, as they say from New York, as a beard for his own little move the prior year. So they went through the motions. They had testimony. Our own friends, many of them friends of the show, testified, spent hours laboring in the House to justify and to analyze the current tax situation, everyone knowing that every day this state is bleeding, hemorrhaging cash to the state of Massachusetts in terms of gas tax, sin tax, cigarette tax, just everything you can imagine. Why, in effect, retail forms a bad toilet bowl ring around the state of Rhode Island, perched on the border, literally almost falling over in order to suck the lifeblood, the economic blood out of the state. How could this happen? Now, Mr. Mattiello, if I remember correctly, as part of the Fox regime, was the House Majority Leader, right?
That is true.
Okay. So how is it that if he's so freaking pro-business, he had an opportunity in the House that he managed to develop some type of cohesive tax plan, or at least come out with recommendations for one, and they could do neither? When you posture that, in a sense, on one hand, the progressives really weren't that progressive and that they were part of the machine, how can you not say the same thing for Mr. Mattiello in terms of his inaction as Majority Leader of the House, and his inability to do anything other than advance a calamari bill?
Truth be known, one of the reasons why I'm so optimistic about the Mattiello speakership is because of the comments that you're talking about that he made. He said, if I remember correctly, that he's going to look at the sales tax, he's going to look at the income tax, and he's going to look at easing regulations on businesses now that he's got the power to do it. So I'm thinking that this is going to be a good move for the economy and a better day for Rhode Island. So for our state.
Which, by the way, is why the Republicans sold out, because they bought right into that.
Right.
Point of order. Point of order.
Yes.
I bristle at this state when people say that we need to deal with the regulation in this state, and I'm telling you, we have a lot of regulation in this state. But how much of it is actually enforced?
There's a inverse relationship between the marginality of enforcement and the amount of money you contribute politically.
That could have something to do with it.
And go talk to the small guy who doesn't have the money to get involved, so to speak, and he's going to tell you that there are regulations and they cripple him.
But the big guys can afford Bob Goldman and Bill Murphy and, to go and grease the wheels at the State House.
Well, as we like to say,
earlier this week, after we got into it in the the ones and zeros of the internet world, I sent Russ a chart of our corporate income tax here in the state, and he did do that. Yes, it's a surprising little layout, and it shows you, I think, just how bad the disparity is between what the big guys are paying and what the little guys are paying.
Well, you've done yeoman's work exposing, the three dirtiest letters in this show, CVS, in terms of their input into the state, how they bleed the state dry. I would say, is Mr. Mattiello, if he didn't have the testicular fortitude to challenge Gordon Fox on surely what was could have been a knee-jerk response to a fairly toothless commission analyzing a fairly obvious cause, how then does he all of a sudden, as they say on the Hill, grow a set and challenge the powers that be?
Because now he is the powers that be. The dynamic has changed. The progressives that would raise sales taxes if they had their way are not going to have the power to stop to do that. So I think we're going to be able to see taxes going the right way going forward.
What you're saying is the position came with a set.
Right.
I didn't say that.
You mean that you kind of sort of strap on?
They passed the gavel and a little something else?
No, I think you kind of trapped them. No, I'm sorry. That's great in theory.
That's in the end,
P.O. But let me just jump in 1 second here. It's easy to say that when you look at the economic trifecta tsunami that's heading down the way. I mean, are you really going to be able to reasonably cut taxes when you're about to see the bottom fall out of your casino revenues? I say it's great news. It looks like the Plainridge people are ahead of schedule, and we could have competition.
That's bad news, not good news.
That's outstanding news. Right on our doorstep.
He's a nihilist.
I can see that.
All right.
Quite clear.
All right, we're steamrolling right ahead to pay the fine folks.
Wait, don't forget about the Foxwoods land grab in Fall River.
Right, and I'm doing whatever I can. Remember, the free bus rides to Plainridge start in Lincoln Downs in September. All of this is just this incredible roll of hurt is heading Rhode Island's way on multiple levels. So how is it possible that he's going to be able to do anything, and isn't it a little bit too late?
Because the answer is capital goes where it's treated the best. Look at a state like New Hampshire. They have no sales tax. They have no income tax. Yet, they have an unemployment rate that is half of what the unemployment rate is in Rhode Island. So by cutting taxes, we could actually see a growth in revenue because we're going to give people an incentive to start a business here and to spend here. Go ahead. I can see you ready. You look like a bull coming at me. Come on.
Well, I have to
fire
say,
away.
I have a lot of friends up in New Hampshire, and I think that the trade-off there is their property taxes for residential are absolutely outrageous.
They're higher. Absolutely.
So if it doesn't, okay, let's say you lower these income taxes, these corporate taxes, and all, and you get all these businesses coming in, and because you've lowered those taxes, you now have to raise the tax on the vast engine of our economy, the middle class, by raising property taxes. You're then taking money out of their pocket so that they don't have the money to go out and spend at these new businesses that are coming into the state.
That's not the answer. We need to cut spending. That's just the bottom line. We can't keep spending the way we've been spending.
I bristle at that too because I don't think it's about levels. I think it's about priorities. I think we spend probably just about the right amount of money, but we don't spend it on the right things. P.O. and I have talked about this before. All the mid-level management types that you see in state offices. How many of those jobs could be farmed out to the private sector? I was thinking about this week. You know how many emails I get from the legislative press corps at the State House? I mean, I could have a separate email account just for those 3 or 4 people, and it would fill up.
If you didn't get those emails, you'd be complaining that they're hiding everything.
No, but what I'm saying is, why is it necessary for those folks to be state employees? Could the state not hire a professional PR firm to handle that for the state? Create a few private sector jobs, and then cut down the budget of the state.
Let me throw in the most egregious example that I've ever seen, and it was actually John DePietro.
I'm sorry, Meredith Whitty and all the folks.
Well, listen, all the laid-off JR people have to go somewhere. But John DePietro himself pointed out this great tweet that came from one of the folks from the Young Pell campaign, and it was a line and a half that said, "We want to thank the Providence Police Department for their efforts in finding our Prius." And DiPietro, to his everlasting credit, responded, "They pay you to write that? Couldn't he have just said that himself?" You're absolutely right. But ultimately, when you've got this revolving door between the media, and listen, we are all available here for hire.